Hi, friends. Happy November.
Hi, everyone. Happy November and happy Monday.
Yeah, Raman and I thought we'd spice things up this November and bring Brown Girl South Asian Month to you guys.
100%. Alicia and I, being two proud Indian women, we talk about our community a lot and, some good, some bad. And this time, there's just so many topics that we want to talk about that we decided to use the month of November to dedicate it to Brown Girl Month. So, Brown Girl Month, meaning we're going to talk about brown girl issues, problems, the good, the bad, the funny, and just everything in between.
Yeah, so tune in while we chat and sip on some tea and talk about all Brown Girl things.
100%. We're going to kick off today's episode by talking about toxic family members that we all have in our South Asian community families.
Hello?
Hi,
Sorry, I
did
got
you
a
hear?
phone call. So
Oh,
you just got stuck off at voice your opinion.
okay. So normally we don't get a choice to voice our opinion. We're kind of told to just be quiet, hush, hush, keep a smile on our face, and, act like we're kind of the perfect children.
Yeah. And you know what, Raman? I think it's also the fact that our whole culture is based off of respecting one another. Fine, doing the
Mhm.
formalities. Formalities is such a huge thing of an in South Asian culture. If this person greets you, you must greet them, or if you're going to their house or their event, you have to greet them, right? And if
Yeah.
your whole family doesn't go, then it's kind of like, what will they say? So if you're invited to someone's house and your parents are going, but then the kids aren't going, and it's, bring your kids. Why didn't your kids come? Are they out and about drinking and partying? Why aren't they here with family? And I think people forget that our families, every single fucking family out there has drama. Whether it's
Yeah.
in your internal family, your immediate family, your external family, your extended, there's fucking drama. So don't sit here and tell me you get along with every fucking person in that family. Believe that for a second.
Yeah, 100%. And I could be wrong about this, but I do feel like the bigger the family, the more obviously naturally drama there is going to be there. And I think that's kind of a little bit of the advantage I had from having a small family. So, as you know, I don't have a lot of extended family here, even though, my I was born here, my family has been here for like over 30 years. We don't have a lot of cousins here or anything. So a lot of the close family that my parents have here, their relationships that my parents have developed, in the 70s and 80s here with and those are the people we kind of consider as close family here. But because we don't have a lot of that extended family, we didn't have a lot of like the gatherings I see in families with the big cousins. Cause I know some people who have like the huge ass, like, five chache, five bua, five this, they have all their cousins here and all their families, and there's always so much drama. It's always like somebody doesn't like somebody, or somebody talks shit, or they're competing with their kids and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like I got lucky in that way because I felt like those people that I knew that had so many family members, they had like a family function like every weekend. Like I remember someone telling me like, "Oh my god, there's like a pot every other weekend, or there's somebody's birthday or somebody's dinner, and there's always something going on." And that's what I always appreciated about having a small family, because I'm like, "Oh, I can just stay home and just, watch a movie or do something and not have so many obligations to kind of go out." Um, so I think that's what might have helped me not have so much family drama, because there just wasn't enough family naturally. But I do see it a lot. And I see like the more family people have, like, there's just, and I don't know why. But I will have to say, Sister Karen is one family that she has like so much more family here now, and I don't see any family drama. But even in all that, there's still some little cracks. Like there's still some family members of hers that are like basically on crack. They're not really on crack, but they have drama.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And I
And
find it so entertaining because I'm like, this is so interesting. This kind of shit doesn't happen in my family.
so I, okay, so I'm about to do like basically because my grandmother she would kill me. Okay, so basically my grandparents were the first ones here. So they brought everybody. My grandma comes from a family of 7 siblings, and my grandfather comes from his step siblings of like 4. Okay, so then they
Mhm.
all got married. They had like at least 3 to 4 kids. Okay, so all my mom's cousins, and then a lot of them too because of the age difference, obviously. And then like I was the 3rd generation, so I was the first like grandchild out of everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically like across the board first. And the thing is, well, on the deer side especially, I growing up had a huge family. So I was the girl who had a million cousins, who like went to school for them, had older guy cousins, at my school, had the girl cousins, had it. Okay, and I would have sleepovers at my cousins' houses. I got compared to my cousins by our parents. The whole, 9 yards of
Mhm.
brown family mentality. And then slowly drama started to happen. And I think the drama was always there, and it was tolerated, or it was basically like, swept under the rug just because it was, my grandma would be upset if my mom said anything. My mom's very opinionated. And a lot of people in my family don't like that. So they can't handle the truth. So clearly my mother started talking and saying, started calling people out on their shit and calling it as it is. And obviously people like it. And I think it got more to the fact that we could tell when people were being fake and game anymore. And honestly, one summer is like, don't talk to this person. One summer is like, we're talking to them again. Next summer, we're not talking. I couldn't fucking keep up. And I think by the time after my 16th, sweet 16, we had a huge party. All my cousins were. After my sweet 16 is when I was like, fuck this. I can't do this anymore. This is drama and it's so annoying and it's just I don't want to be part of it anymore and I don't want to play the game. So I stepped out. My grandmother recently is like in touch, kind of like at her age, obviously I think it's only 2 siblings left now. It's like kind of passed away. And so at her age now with her 2 sisters, she's kind of like, well, you guys should all talk. And we're all like, but this entire time we haven't talked for years. How do you want us all now to connect? Like our lives are so
Yeah.
different. Like, how are we supposed to do that? And, like she wants to do awkward things, like have parties and like, for my little cousins, because they had a Munden or whatever it may be. And she wants to have like all these people there. And she thinks we're just going to all get along under one fucking roof. It's kind of like,
Jokes.
no, like time has passed. And, she wants these relationships to mend, but we can't. We don't have the same reasoning as she does. This is her blood. This is her siblings. That's different. But as soon as
Yeah.
it goes into cousins and their kids and blah, 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 I don't think it's worth it at that point. And, we just denied a family request, and not just because we have anything against them or anything like that, but I haven't even talked to a single one of you for like 3 fucking years. The last time I saw any of you was at my wedding events, which was 4 years ago. And now you want me to
Yeah.
come to a wedding event? I haven't heard from you for 4 years. I was like to my mom, what is the point of going? I don't even
Yeah.
talk to anybody. What are we gonna fucking go and do just as a formality? So I feel like toxicity can be of the fact that like you need sanity in your life at a certain point where you're not living for other people and just living for yourself too, right? And it's kind of makes that whole thing about like, the judgment call. If I haven't
Yeah.
talked to you, you're not part of my day to day or even month to month
Yeah.
and your events.
Yep. And it sucks because a lot of these like dramas that you're mentioning, they start as like adult problems. And a lot of the times we're just children and kind of innocent bystanders that kind of get forced into these situations. And a lot of the times I feel like some children might not even understand as children and be like, wait, why do I have to stop talking to X, Y, and Z and not understand like why some families break up or some relationships stop or why parents kind of do what they do. And it sucks because you follow these things and then years later if they do end up kind of making amends, then you're just kind of like, but wait a second, this doesn't make sense to me now. And that's when us and our parents are going to be on completely different pages.
Yeah, and you know what? You're absolutely right. These decisions are made for us because we're kids, and it's so fucking shitty because I actually liked my cousins. You know what I mean? And I thought I would have cousins at my wedding, and whatever. My closest two cousins are obviously my mamu's kids. And I wouldn't have it any other way because I love them, but we have a huge age difference. So
Yeah.
they're like fucking 4 and 2. Like, I'll be there for them and I'll like the path, but and it's kind of sucky. And it's like we have so many you have so many enemies throughout your life, like whether it's through school or through work or just fucking girls being bitches, that it's
Yeah.
kind of like, why can't we just get along with family? Why does there always have to be this toxicity between family members when we already have so much hatred on the outside? We have to have hatred on the inside.
I feel like it's because brown people feel like they're in fucking competition with each other, to be honest. um
Yeah.
I follow this girl that honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I would really love to have her on our podcast. So I'll try
Mm.
reaching out. Let's see if she actually decides to join us. But her name on TikTok is something shit. It's like HR marker or something like that, but her hashtag is like call her Didi. So she's actually like a 20-year-old girl and she talks about toxic stories between family members in her family. So she shares like actual stories. And there's so many stories about like, and I feel so many stories are relatable to her. Whereas like just like her family, my family, anybody that comes from India, like my parents take them in, whenever they need a place to stay until they can kind of find their own place or get on their feet. My parents are more than happy to give them a roof over their head. We have had people that, we don't even really know personally too long have come stayed over. So, she kind of has that similar experience. And then it's so funny because I saw this one, like, I think yesterday, and she's like, this uncle she talks about so many stories about like this aunt that stayed at her house for years. Now it's like the person that she's stayed at their house, like their children or her cousins or something, when they go stay at her house for like, I don't know, school break or something, she charges them like for rent and food. And
What
just
the?
yeah, she says it's honestly, it's so interesting about like how people forget what you've kind of done for them. And she talks about this like uncle, how he was like, oh, and she's a babysitter, so she's like, obviously I don't pay tax most of the times, right? You just get cash money. And she's like, oh, this guy tried to be like, oh, I wonder if the government knows that you don't pay tax and stuff like that, like unnecessary shit, right? And she's just like,
Haters
why
are
can't you
haters.
go mind your own business? Like in
Yeah.
your own life. Like, why are you interfering in our life? And I feel like even as like she talks about her mom, and it's like, she's still kind of told to like respect these people and still show respect and not kind of go down to their level. And it's like, it's so shitty because you see these situations happen. And then you feel like, okay, our parents are still going to tell us, like, make sure that, we're not kind of lowering ourselves to their level, and we're still being respectful. But when in reality you really want to like go to that uncle and be like, what the fuck, you're a fucking idiot, and what the hell, like okay, so and I don't know if you go through these situations, but my parents, sorry, another side story, my parents will, how like I have the snitch uncle, like I have other uncles like
Yeah.
that, right? So I'm, they'll call my dad and be like, oh, my son's so well off, oh, my daughter, she's staying in this place, blah 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 blah. And it's like, um and it's like they're like kind of boosting their children or whatever, they're trying to make themselves seem like, oh, we're in this really good place and stuff like that. And then obviously, kind of like chain reaction, my parents tell me, right? So but it was just such a funny situation to me because I'm like, okay, I'm listening to them, I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. And then in reality I'm like, okay, but I follow their children on Instagram, like I know what they're actually up to, and it's not what you think it is. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't really want to snitch them out too much, right? Because I'm still trying to follow, like, I'm like, what's the point, And maybe it is me, like, kind of um, following in their steps, and I'm like, why ruin somebody's reputation? Why kind of start like a fire or whatever? But in reality, I'm like, okay, like, why are you, making your children seem out to be something that they're not when I actually know what they're up to? And no, you're sorry, your daughter is not out in this country doing the job. She just like, ran away with her white boyfriend. Yeah, like reality is true though. And it's just so funny because I know this because I follow her on Instagram. I see the post that she does. Her ass is out like in half the photos. Like,
Exposed.
yeah, like, but like I didn't go to my parents and I was like, okay, well, um, because I'm like, why start something between the parents? There's already so much drama between brown people. I'm like, I can hold it down. Like, I'm not going to be the one to like be the brown family drama person. So I was like very hush hush. But now that I'm thinking about it, didn't I just kind of do the same thing like our parents do when it comes to like situations? It's like, just stay hush hush and don't cause any further issues.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think what you're doing is correct. Like, I think you're not doing it deliberately to hurt anybody. And I think you're also keeping on the deal low, but it's kind of sickening to know like that these people, it's the people that always want, like the uncle that speaks too much about his bache. This is what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Like it's just those people always get fucked over because it's your Galani bache that are doing what you don't think they're doing. And
Yeah,
kind of
like
like,
the competition, right? Like trying to make your
yeah.
children seem like they're in competition. And it was just so funny because, I just died laughing when my mom's like, oh, did you know that she's doing this? Like, how nice, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, she might even be a prostitute for all I know. You
Okay,
can't even.
but it's also in the fact you're absolutely right. We don't know what the fuck they're actually doing behind scenes, right? Or it's kind of like, oh, I don't even know if she's knocked up, girlfriend. Like maybe that's why she's getting married. You
Yeah,
don't know, right?
yeah,
Half the reasons because our families keep it so hush, and it could be so fucking up in the vault that no one will ever find out for generations, But it'll make it seem like it's perfect on the app. Um, okay, so this is one thing, I think also really unfortunate, Raman, that
yeah.
okay, there's the aunties and uncles that over exaggerate fucking family. Okay, great. I think one of the other things that are really annoying is because my husband's got an aunt who
Hmm.
talks about her kids a lot
Yeah.
and is always like, my kids are amazing, my kids are amazing. Like, you don't even know the half the shit going on. And it's kind of like you also fucked up your kids because they're book smart, but that's about it. And I feel like they don't have the knowledge or like emotional intelligence to connect with other people or the outside world. So they're so
Mhm.
know how to interact that it becomes like fucking scary to them to even talk to someone. And it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, I'm sick of hearing people talk so much about their children instead of talking to their children. Like,
Yeah.
why are we talking about what their accomplishments are and the expectations that they've surpassed for you? But why not having conversations and checking in with your child and communicating and being like, hey, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with that? I feel like some children don't even know that their parents are proud of them until they hear them or overhear a conversation on a phone call. And a mom
Yeah.
is telling another fucking child's in university, I'm so proud, they work so hard, they go to school, they have a part-time job, but like they won't tell their child how proud of them they are.
I feel like my parents are those people.
Yeah, I feel like, my mom used to be, right? Like when I first got into university, I didn't really know how proud she is of me. And like honestly, my mom has come around a lot in the last like 5 years to actually start making an effort to tell me that she like I'm an entrepreneur or like, I'm a jack of all trades or whatever, wherever I set my mind to, I can do it. And I love hearing that from her because it's
Mhm.
nice to hear for when all X amount of years I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to touch base on is the really toxic relationships. So that but mainly the South Asian community. It's things that we don't know that is wrong that we continue to encourage those relationships. And I'm talking about, and this is a trigger warning if anything for anybody, but I am talking about sexual assault, and I am
Mm-hmm.
talking about being touched incorrectly. I
Mm-hmm.
have talked to a lot of people in the last couple of years that have told me like they were sexually assaulted, and I'm not talking about like completely like raped or anything like that. I'm talking about like even just minor touching of parts of
Yeah.
the body. And I don't know, like when you think about going to India, listen, it's a whole different fucking world out there. I get it. But we may think it's okay because we're going to India a certain way or touching a certain way. But I think
Yeah.
and realize that like no, this is wrong, it's still wrong. Or if you look at a cousin and you're like, no, this is like my dad's brother's kid, or this is whoever, and you're like, no, this is my cousin, it's fine. You don't realize that it's still wrong. And there's a part of you that probably might feel that however how went or whatever it may have been wasn't
Yeah.
follow through with that, because you know and you need to talk to someone, whether it be your parent or like a psychologist or anybody, a counselor, because that is not something you want to bottle up and suppress. It's not okay, it didn't feel right, and you can justify it like it's not okay. And I think
Yeah.
be more like vocal about these things, because maybe that person doesn't even know they did something wrong, and that's the other issue. It's not intentional, but it didn't feel
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean?
It's very
I
unfortunate that like our brown community does not talk about this kind of stuff. And I feel like honestly, as somebody who kind of grew up with traditional parents, I know I personally would not be comfortable enough to talk to my parents about anything like that. And I'm sure a lot of, girls that kind of grew up in the similar situation as me would not feel very comfortable talking about these situations either. And maybe not even recognize something like that, and maybe yeah, just like shove it under the rug and be like, okay, well, I'm just not going to talk to this uncle again, but not knowing that like you're still going to be forced to go to these family events, you're still going to be forced to go greet this uncle, because god forbid if you do not, then you're not respecting your parents. um and you still get thrown into these situations and have to live with that.
Yeah, and it's not right. It's not fair. I get it. You can talk to your parents, fine. But the podcast that I was listening to today was what was it, Raman? Brown Girl Guilt. I
Yeah.
was listening to her podcast. She came across my Spotify. And she said that she was talking about this incident. And she basically said, it took me a few years to realize that like overcome it. I had to be stronger than it, and I had to talk about it. Because the only way to something like the pain go away and not let it affect me, put it out into the universe and like let it go. But
Hmm.
she did say that, and she told her dad,
Oh, no
and
way.
he was very supportive. And she
Nice.
actually sat down with the person who did assault her, and she's like, I don't
Yeah.
know if you know what you were doing. This is what you did to me. And
Okay, and did he know what he was doing?
no.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. Different cultures, right?
Yeah.
Indian, it's different countries, right? Or Pakistan or Guyana, wherever. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different world in the sense of how we greet each other, how we hug, and what we think is okay and what isn't. And I think
Yeah.
that's why these conversations need to be normalized. And if you are that 14, 15-year-old being forced to go to an uncle's or aunt's house, going to, don't
Hmm.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the conversation you have to have. You have to say why you're uncomfortable. And I know in some cases it would be easy, but I think sometimes maybe some of our parents would us and be willing to listen.
Yeah, like why? And you don't, if you're uncomfortable, you can just bluntly even say, like, I don't like this uncle. I don't like the way he talks and he annoys the shit out of me and I don't want to be at his house. Cause I've definitely said that before. Not because of like any sexual assault reasons, but just because when you have like annoying uncles or uncles that ask too many questions or just make you feel uncomfortable in other ways, you're just like, no, I don't want to go to these people's houses.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, one thing Raman and I always fucking come down and say is, does this person pay your fucking bills? No. Did this person give you
Yeah.
life? No. Fuck them. Fuck it. Don't go. You don't need to entertain it. If your parents want to be part of them, they want to have the relationship, let your parents have the relationship. Does not mean you have to have the relationship.
Yep, 100%. And and I feel like as we get older, it becomes easier to say no. And I know definitely for me it was. When I was younger, I didn't have a choice. I had to go with them. And my brother at the time was the older one, so he kind of had the choice to be like, "Oh, I don't want to go to these people's house," and got to like rebel and stay home. But when you're like, 8 years old, you don't really have a chance to rebel and be like, "No, I'm gonna stay home and not go to these people's house." But as I did get older, I did become a little more
Vocal.
picky with who, yeah, more, oh, definitely more vocal. I don't think my parents like that part of me. But you know what it was? I would go to people's houses and, I would, uncles and aunties, they make very inappropriate comments, right? Whether it's like, oh, you're too skinny, you're too fat, oh, you're not eating enough, oh, you're eating too much, or, oh, what are your grades in school, or how much money do you make, or, the constant marriage question. So I feel like there was just always a constant flood of questions growing up. And I was always very like quiet and kind of just stay to myself. And I just chose to kind of, I'm like, I remember just telling myself, like, I just got to get through this dinner, then I'm going to go home, and then I'm not going to see them. And God knows when I'm going to see them next. You just had to make it through the dinner, like the uncomfortable dinner. You just had to make it through. I couldn't wait to go home. Because, especially when this sounds bad, but when the other family that you're going like go over to dinner, when they don't have kids and stuff with, you're just bored and you're stuck with adults. And back in the day there were no cell phones. At least now I could just sit on my cell phone for 10 hours, but back
Mhm.
in the day there was no cell phone for me to just sit, so you had to sit with the adults and just like kind of go with what they're saying. But now now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, if you don't like what I'm saying, or if I don't like what you're saying, and I'm not going to be like completely rude or like snap back at every situation. Like, remember how we found out like there was some girl and people couldn't even be at dinners with her because she would just talk back and be so opinionated? Like, I'm not that person where I'm just like, oh, I need to shove my opinion in everybody's conversation. But yeah, now it's like, if you do say something to me that's like, I'm not comfortable talking to you about, or like, the whole, for example, for so many years, I had this one auntie, and every time I would see her, every time the marriage question, every time, every fucking time. And at a point, I was just like, is there nothing else you can talk to me about? Like, is there
Jesse.
no other conversation? Do you not want to ask me how's my work going? What are my goals? What are my ambitions? I'm like, I have other goals in life, to get other than to just get married. And I'm like, I'm like, whenever you want to have another conversation with me, you're welcome to come talk to me. But like, you have nothing else to talk about. And I just, I would get annoyed, and I have had situations like that where I have kind of snapped back, but not like without completely being rude, but it's only like, okay, when you're pushing my buttons to a certain extent, right? So now
Yeah.
in situations like that, like, I will talk back because I'm just like, oh, you're annoying as fuck now. And now I'm an adult. I don't have as much, like, I don't know. I don't know if I had more patience than I did even now, but now I don't have patience for that. Or not patience, sorry. I don't have tolerance for that.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more with you. You said it perfectly. Like, who wants to be part of that they're fucking being interviewed on a weekend?
Yeah.
People you're supposed to feel safe and secure around, and you're not because of these fucking situations. It's not okay. Instead of being people who are there for you and lighting the path for you, or giving you a different insight of how you can handle a situation, or helping you with your career choice or anything like that, instead you're making it uncomfortable for this individual to ever even look your way. So kudos to you, auntie, who fucking was out there opening her mouth about, like, the only thing she knows of, when I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that before they speak, it's totally the wrong thing to say. Like, there's no way in fucking hell you don't realize that what you're saying is totally wrong. Because I know when I've said something intentionally just to hurt somebody, I know it was wrong. Like, I
Yeah.
have said that, or I shouldn't have asked that stupid question because I was being naive. No. Like, if I know that, then you, who's like 40, 50 years old, you definitely know that's not the right question to ask.
Yeah, and it's just like, especially when you've asked that question a million times already. And I think as parents, and you know what, like, I don't think my mom's to blame or anything because, like, she's probably also with my aunt, like, yeah, when are you getting married? Like, so she's also on her side.
But
But
that's your mom.
yeah, that's my
Your
mother, right?
mom,
Like, she
your
can bug
mom
me all
knows
she
you,
wants.
but you got to remember, your mom's checklist is different. My school, my daughter has a job, my daughter has an additional bonus. She has a business. My daughter's she's still young, and that's what's next for your mom. Your mom has a different agenda. She wants to know that as she's getting older, her kid's going to be okay. For a
Yeah.
random auntie to fucking start asking you these questions who have no right to ask you that at all, don't have, it's not there. Like, it shouldn't be a conversation
Yeah.
even held.
Yep, 100%. And I think as parents, I think like the older generation, it might be too late for them. But unless, like, I mean, I don't really go to dinners anymore and stuff like that. Like, I just cut that part of my out of my life. But if I were to, then I would tell my parents, like, okay, this uncle's like annoying as fuck, or he keeps asking me these questions, or blah blah blah. But I think as parents, like, when we grow older, if I see somebody like repeatedly annoying my child, like, I'm gonna be there for them.
I'm 100% gonna step in. I agree with you on that. I don't want the shit that I heard growing up, like, oh, you shouldn't be eating that, or you know what, you got dark over the summer. I'm gonna
Yeah,
shut
like,
that.
shut the fuck up.
I'm gonna shut that shit down so quick. It's not even funny. This stuff is not okay. And anyone out there listening, don't follow the trends you've seen as we've all. And if you don't feel like they're right, then change them. We all have a voice. We all have actions, and we're all gonna have children or nieces or nephews or little cousins. Let's make a difference, one little kid at a time.
Yeah, and we're always going to kind of have some family member that's going to be toxic, or some family member that feels like, oh, they're in competition with you or your child. And these are like, that's a you problem for them. Like, don't try not to get sucked into them. And yeah, as much as our parents tell us, like, we have to kind of stay quiet and stay respectful, there is also a limit. So, I mean, if you can't kind of talk to your parents and be open with them, then, find that person, or find, like, how we always say, find that middle person who can kind of be that voice between you and your parents, or you and whoever else it is, to kind of bridge that gap and be like, okay, something's not right here. This is a toxic relationship. So and so doesn't want to be a part of it, or they don't want to go to this person's house, and they don't have a need to see these people. And, it's stressful. So, I mean, there's a million toxic brown family member stories that I could, like, go on and on about. But, like, all in all, it's just something that, I know as you grow up you don't have to deal with. But unfortunately, I do know adults that are my age that do still feel like they're obligated to be a part of these family functions, even though they have these toxic family members in there, which is unfortunate. But, hopefully, one step at a time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. So hang in there, little one. You got this. Just and remember, that's not your end of your story. You still get to write your story.
Yep, 100%. Thank you for listening, everyone, about our brown family relationship toxic. Oh my God, I can't say the word. Toxic. Oh my God, I still can't say the word.
Toxicity.
Toxicness. I'm just going to say toxic there because I can't fucking talk right now. Oh my God. But thanks everyone for listening. I hope you had a really good Monday. If you have not followed us on social media, please follow us on Level Up with Raman and Alysha. And if you have any Brown family member stories or anything you'd like us to talk about, please email us at ramanandalysha@gmail.com.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.